I almost walked out of that bank. That's the truth. When the woman behind the desk laughed under her breath, I felt something in me crack. Not anger, shame. All I had said was, I just want to see my balance. I wasn't asking for a loan. I wasn't begging. I wasn't even hoping. I just needed to know if there was enough on that card to keep my daughter from losing her home. Lucy was asleep on my shoulder when I stepped into Grand Crest Bank that morning. Her cheek was warm against my neck. I hadn't shaved. My shirt was wrinkled. I looked like a man who had lost everything. Because I had. My wife Sarah died 2 months ago. Cancer doesn't just take a person. It takes the future you thought you had. It takes the sound of laughter in the kitchen. It takes sleep. Lucy still wakes up at night calling for her mom, and I still don't know what to say. The eviction notice was taped to our door. 5 days left. I had $360 in my wallet and a card Sarah made me promise to keep. Don't lose it, she whispered the morning she died. I never asked why. I didn't think there was anything on it. When the teller led me into the VIP section, I thought it was a mistake. When the senior account manager, Victoria Hale, looked at me like I didn't belong, I wanted to disappear. You don't know the balance? She asked. No. She smirked slightly, typed, waited. Then she froze. Her face changed. The room went quiet, and when she turned the screen toward me, the numbers didn't look real. $78 million. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it felt cruel. There's a mistake, I said. But she didn't laugh anymore. She looked afraid, and that's when I realized something. Sarah hadn't just left me a card. She had left me a secret, and whatever that secret was, it was about to change everything. I didn't feel rich. I felt exposed. $78 million glowed on that screen. But all I could think about was the eviction, notice on my door, and the milk that would run out tomorrow morning. Mr. Carter, Victoria said carefully, do you understand what you're looking at? No, I answered honestly. I don't. Lucy stirred in my arms, her tiny fingers gripping my collar like she was afraid I might disappear too. I kissed the top of her head. I needed something real, something solid. Victoria started asking questions. When did your wife open this card? Did she ever mention a trust? Did she talk about the Harmon Family Foundation? Every question felt like an accusation. No. Sarah and I shared everything. Or at least, I thought we did, but suddenly I wasn't sure. Victoria's voice softened just a little. Your wife donated bone marrow 4 years ago. The words hit me harder than the number. What? She turned the screen toward me again. There was Sarah's signature, clear as day, dated 4 years ago. She saved a child's life, Victoria continued. The Harmon family's son. The foundation created a medical trust in her name. The funds were structured to transfer to you upon her death. I couldn't breathe. Sarah never told me. Not when we were drowning in bills. Not when we were choosing between medication and rent. Not when I quit my job to sit beside her hospital bed. She carried that secret alone. Why? I felt something sharp twist inside. My chest, gratitude, anger, love, confusion all at once. She could have used the money, I whispered. We could have. Victoria didn't interrupt. Lucy woke up fully then. She looked at my face and touched my cheek. Daddy, why you sad? I swallowed hard. I'm not sad. But I was. Because if Sarah knew this money was waiting, then she chose to leave it untouched. She chose to suffer quietly. For us. And I didn't know whether to feel honored or betrayed. I thought the shock was over. It wasn't. Because once the numbers settled in, something else started to rise. Fear. Mr. Carter, Victoria said gently. This changes everything for you. Does it? I looked down at Lucy sitting in my lap, her fingers tangled in my shirt. She didn't look different. The world outside the glass walls didn't look different. But I felt different. Smaller. What if I ruin this? I asked before I could stop myself. Victoria blinked. Ruin it? I don't know anything about money like this. I barely handled the little we had. What if I make one wrong move and it's gone? That was the truth. Losing Sarah nearly destroyed me. I couldn't survive losing this too. Victoria leaned back in her chair. The cold edge she had earlier was gone. Now she looked thoughtful. You don't strike me as reckless, she said. I almost laughed. You don't know me. I know you walked in here asking for enough to pay rent, she replied. That tells me more than you think. Her words hit somewhere deep, not flattery, recognition. Lucy reached up suddenly and touched Victoria's bracelet. Pretty, she whispered. Victoria froze for half a second, then smiled, a real one this time. Thank you, she said softly. Something shifted in the room. It wasn't tension anymore. It was something quieter, human. Victoria stood and walked around the desk. kneeling so she was eye level with Lucy. "Hi, I'm Victoria." "Lucy," my daughter said proudly. Victoria glanced at me for a brief second, and for the first time, I didn't feel judged. I felt seen. "Mr. Carter," she said quietly, standing again. "You don't have to decide everything today. Let's start small. Fix the urgent things: food, rent, stability." Stability. I hadn't felt that word in months, and suddenly I realized something else. This wasn't just about money. It was about learning how to live again, without Sarah, and maybe without being alone. I thought the shock was over. It wasn't, because once the numbers settled in, something else started to rise. Fear. "Mr. Carter," Victoria said gently, "this changes everything for you." "Does it?" I looked down at Lucy sitting in my lap, her fingers tangled in my shirt. She didn't look different. The world outside the glass walls didn't look different. But I felt different. Smaller. What if I ruin this? I asked before I could stop myself. Victoria blinked. "Ruin it? I don't know anything about money like this. I barely handled the little we had. What if I make one wrong move and it's gone?" That was the truth. Losing Sarah nearly destroyed me. I couldn't survive losing this too. Victoria leaned back in her chair. The cold edge she had earlier was gone. Now she looked thoughtful. "You don't strike me as reckless," she said. I almost laughed. "You don't know me." "I know you walked in here asking for enough to pay rent," she replied. "That tells me more than you think." Her words hit somewhere deep, not flattery. Recognition. Lucy reached up suddenly and touched Victoria's bracelet. "Pretty," she whispered. Victoria froze for half a second, then smiled. A real one this time. "Thank you," she said softly. Something shifted in the room. It wasn't tension anymore. It was something quieter. Human. Victoria stood and walked around the desk, kneeling so she was eye level with Lucy. "Hi, I'm Victoria." "Lucy," my daughter said proudly. Victoria glanced at me for a brief second, and for the first time, I didn't feel judged. I felt seen. "Mr. Carter," she said quietly, standing again. "You don't have to decide everything today. Let's start small. Fix the urgent things: food, rent, stability." Stability. I hadn't felt that word in months, and suddenly I realized something else. This wasn't just about money. It was about learning how to live again, without Sarah, and maybe without being alone. I didn't text her for 12 minutes. Yes, I counted. I stood in my kitchen staring at that card like it was wired to explode. Real number, real name, real risk. I had hired her. You don't text someone you hire for coffee. That breaks rules. And rules are the only reason my life works. Emma's room was dark and quiet. Her stuffed animals stood guard like they always do, predictable, safe. I picked up my phone anyway. "Thank you for tonight, really." 3 minutes later. "You did better than you think." My chest tightened. No emoji, no flirtation, just simple truth. I stared at the screen. Then I typed it. "Coffee this week?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I felt 16 years old. Finally. Thursday, 2 p.m., same cafe. My fingers hovered. I made another mistake. It's a date. I instantly regretted the word. Too forward, too intimate. Her reply came 30 seconds later. "We'll see." I exhaled slowly, and just like that, I had something to look forward to. The next morning, Emma watched me over her cereal bowl like a tiny FBI agent. "You're smiling at your phone again." "I am not." "You are." "That's the lady." "What lady?" She rolled her eyes. "Daddy?" I gave up. "It's just coffee." "That's what dates are." I opened my mouth to argue and found nothing. When did 6-year-olds get this sharp? Later that day at work, I found myself distracted. Not anxious, not calculating, just curious about her, about what she's like without the dress and the ballroom and the performance, what she laughs at, what she avoids, what she's hiding, because something in that car ride, when she said she wasn't pretending the whole time, that wasn't part of the arrangement. That was something else. And I've learned something about myself these past 3 years. I don't fear loneliness anymore. I fear hope. And Thursday? Thursday felt dangerously close to hope. I wasn't supposed to notice her hands, but I did. They were steady when she signed documents, precise when she typed, calm when she explained things I barely understood. But when Lucy laughed, really laughed, those hands trembled just a little. It was small, almost invisible, but I saw it, and something in me softened. "Do you always bring clients into the VIP lounge?" I asked quietly. Victoria gave a faint smile. "Only the ones with $78 million." I smirked. "That's not what I meant." She looked at me then. Direct, unshielded. "No," she admitted. "I don't." The air shifted, not heavy, just charged. Lucy climbed back into my lap, sleepy again. I brushed her hair from her face, and when I looked up, Victoria was watching me, not judging. Watching. Like she was studying something fragile. "You love her a lot," she said. The way she said it wasn't casual. It was almost careful. "She's all I have," I replied. The words slipped out before I could stop them. And the moment they did, something in her expression changed. Not pity, concern. "That's not true," she said softly. I frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated like she was crossing a line. "You still have yourself," she said. "And that matters more than you think." I didn't know how to answer that. Because the truth? I hadn't thought about myself in months. I'd been surviving, existing, moving through grief like fog. Sarah had been the strong one, the planner, the steady heartbeat of our home. Without her, I didn't know who I was supposed to be. Victoria stepped closer to the desk. "Grief makes you shrink," she said quietly. "It makes you believe you're smaller than you are." Her voice wasn't professional anymore. It was personal. And suddenly I realized something. She wasn't just helping me with money. She was helping me stand up again. And that scared me more than the 78 million ever could. Because money doesn't ask you to feel. I wasn't ready for how easy it felt to talk to her. That scared me. Not because she was a stranger, but because for the first time since Sarah died, I didn't feel like I was drowning when I spoke. Victoria had moved her chair closer to the desk, no longer hiding behind it. The distance between us had shrunk. Not dramatically, just enough. "You don't have to be strong every second," she said quietly. I let out a breath that felt like it had been trapped inside my lungs for months. "Everyone keeps saying that," I muttered. "But if I'm not strong, Lucy has no one." Victoria shook her head slowly. "She doesn't need a hero," she said. "She needs her dad." That hit harder than I expected, because I had been trying to replace something that could never be replaced. Lucy shifted in my arms and looked up at Victoria. "You pretty," she said sleepily. Victoria blinked, caught off guard. Then she laughed, soft, unpolished, real. "Thank you," she whispered. And when she looked at me after that, something had changed. There was warmth in her eyes now, not curiosity, not judgment, warmth. I felt it, and immediately I hated myself for noticing. Because how could I even allow that? Sarah had been gone 2 months. 2. The idea of feeling anything, even something small, felt like betrayal. Victoria must have sensed the shift in me because she straightened slightly, putting space back between us. Professional again, safe again. "We'll schedule a follow-up meeting," she said calmly. "There's a lot to structure long-term. Distance, necessary." But it left something unsettled in my chest. As I stood to leave, Lucy wrapped her arms around my neck. Victoria handed me a folder with the finalized documents. "If you need anything," she said, holding my gaze, "call me directly." "Not the office, her." I nodded. "Thank you." But when I turned to walk away, I felt it. Not just the weight of responsibility, the weight of possibility, and I didn't know if I was ready for either. I told myself I wouldn't call her. That was the plan. Keep it professional, keep it simple, keep my heart where it belonged with Sarah. But 3 nights later, I was sitting on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m., Lucy asleep on the couch and panic creeping back in. Not about money, about life. $78 million doesn't teach you how to breathe in an empty house. It doesn't tell you how to answer when your daughter asks why mommy doesn't come to school anymore. I stared at the folder Victoria gave me. Her number was written at the bottom in blue ink. Direct line. I shouldn't have dialed it, but I did. It rang twice. "Victoria Hale," she answered, voice calm. Not sleepy. "Hi, it's Evan." A pause. Not awkward, just aware. "Are you okay?" she asked immediately. That did something to me. Not, "What do you need?" Not, "Is this about the account?" "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I admitted. Silence on the line. Not uncomfortable. Just space. "I keep thinking I'm going to mess everything up," I said. "The investments. The decisions. Lucy's future." "You won't," she replied softly. "You don't know that." "I do." Her confidence wasn't arrogant. It was steady, and I leaned into it more than I should have. "Why are you still at the office?" I asked quietly. Another pause. "I'm not," she said. "I just don't sleep much." Something in her voice cracked just slightly. Internal struggle. I recognized it. "You too?" I asked. "Yeah." There it was. Not banker and client. 2 insomniacs holding grief differently. "You don't have to carry this alone," she said after a moment. I closed my eyes. The problem wasn't the money. It was the silence in the house. The empty side of the bed, and the way my heart reacted when I heard her voice. Because for the first time in months, The silence didn't feel as loud, and that terrified me. I shouldn't have asked her to come over, but I did. Lucy had a fever that night. Not high, not dangerous. Just enough to bring back memories I wasn't ready to face alone. Hospitals, monitors, beeping machines, Sarah fading. It was irrational, I knew that. But grief doesn't listen to logic. I texted Victoria without thinking. Lucy's sick. I know it's not your job. 3 minutes later my phone rang. I'm on my way, she said. You don't have to. I know. 30 minutes later, she was standing in my living room wearing jeans and a soft gray sweater. No heels, no sharp edges, just her. Lucy was asleep on the couch, flushed but peaceful. Victoria knelt beside her instinctively, brushing hair off her forehead. She's okay, she whispered. The way she said it. Steady, certain. I didn't realize how badly I needed someone else to say that out loud. We sat on the floor beside the couch. Close, not touching, but close. You don't have to keep reliving it, she said quietly. I can't help it, I admitted. Every time Lucy coughs, I see Sarah in that hospital bed. Victoria looked at me then, not as a banker, not even as a friend, as someone who understood fear of loss. You loved her? She said softly. That doesn't go away just because you're still here. I feel guilty, I whispered. For what? For not falling apart anymore. The words hung between us, raw, honest. Victoria's hand brushed mine accidentally. Neither of us moved away. Surviving isn't betrayal, she said. Her voice was barely above a breath, and suddenly I wasn't thinking about money, or paperwork, or even grief. I was thinking about how close she was, and how my heart reacted to it. Lucy stirred softly in her sleep, and for a split second, I wondered if letting someone new into our life would heal us, or destroy what little of Sarah I still held on to. I didn't pull my hand away. That's the part that keeps replaying in my head. Her fingers were warm against mine. Not intentional, not dramatic, just there. Lucy shifted on the couch, sighing softly. And for a second, the three of us were frozen in something that felt almost whole. And that terrified me. Victoria must have felt it too, because she slowly withdrew her hand. Not abruptly, not embarrassed, just careful. She's going to be okay, she said quietly, glancing at Lucy. I know. But I wasn't talking about the fever anymore. We sat in silence for a long moment. The kind of silence that doesn't suffocate. The kind that asks questions without using words. I don't want to replace her, I said suddenly. Victoria's eyes met mine. There was no confusion in them. She understood exactly who I meant. You won't, she replied softly. But what if Lucy thinks I am? She won't, Victoria said. Children don't measure love like that. They expand it. Expand it. The word settled deep inside me. I looked at Lucy, our daughter. Sarah's daughter, mine. And I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to think. Loving again wouldn't erase Sarah. It would honor what she built. She fought so hard for us, I whispered. I know, Victoria said. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. This wasn't about $78 million. It wasn't about investments or trust funds or luxury offices. It was about a woman who loved us enough to secure our future, and another woman who walked into our lives not with arrogance, but with quiet care. I stood slowly. Victoria rose with me. There was space between us now, respectful, necessary, but different than before. I don't know what this is, I admitted. Neither do I, she said honestly. That made me smile, because for the first time since Sarah died, I wasn't afraid of the future. Not because of the money, but because I wasn't facing it alone, and maybe that was the real gift Sarah left behind. Not the fortune, but the courage to live again,